Hey, everybody, it's Mike Myers and Richard Chapman, your two bald nerds, coming at you this week with the topic near and dear to, I know, my heart, and certainly Richard's too, and that is, we spend so much time talking about the tools that we use as an English is not my first language today.
A little tongue-tied over there this morning,
A
sir?
little bit. As an analyst, there's a lot of tools that you need. And Richard wants to spend this episode talking about some of the secondary type tools. I mean, it's easy to talk about things like Splunk and CrowdStrike and Proofpoint, sure. But what are some of the extra tools? Richard, you've got a few examples for us today, and hopefully some reasons why we might use this tool versus the other. So, Richard, take it away, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, like you mentioned, our main tools that we use, that most analysts use every day, are designed for the monitoring, looking at those security events and doing the main part of the investigation. But without the secondary tools, there's a lot of holes in the information that is provided to us, and the information that we can find that help us understand the nature of these security events. So I've got a few different quote unquote secondary tools that I figured I would spend a few minutes on.
Well, show them, man. Show them.
All right. Let me share.
I get all excited when you do all this buildup, Richard.
I know. You like show and tell. You were probably like the kid in kindergarten who couldn't keep the hands off of everybody's show and tell items, right?
Yeah, but if you press the star block really, really hard, it would go through the square block.
I thought it was the round or the square peg in a round hole. I thought that one you could shove.
That's 101, man. We got to get the pentagram through the star.
Oh, gee whiz. Okay, now we're talking about kindergarten shapes. Love it. All right, anyways. All right, so first secondary tool we're going to talk about, and again, I'm going to keep this relatively brief, but attack surface management. It's really important to be able to know what your network encompasses. All of the different devices, all of the different attack vectors that attackers have, right? Different ways that they can attack, different devices that are connected to your environment. Rogue devices are a huge issue for IT teams, IT security teams, because if they don't know they're there, they can't protect against them, right? It becomes an issue. So we utilize and teach Armis here in our environment, and it does a really, really awesome job of reaching out through the network and looking at all of the different assets and so forth in the network, so that you can understand what your network consists of. And when you're talking about devices, I mean, you're literally talking about every type of device. As a matter of fact, we have an employee here that sometimes shows up on here with her car, because she has connected her car to the guest Wi-Fi. So it shows up as a device on our network when her car is here, because it's probably doing some sort of update because it's connected to the Wi-Fi. So phones and access points and switches and laptops and servers and everything else out there, this does a really good job of not only collecting the data on those devices, but it can actually even pull in some of the vulnerability issues based on where it gets its information from. Super, super cool tool, just an amazing tool here. And again, we teach this as a secondary tool so that not only people understand attack surface management, but they can use this as well too when they're doing investigations. If you're looking at a particular device and you want to understand what that device is, you can go in here and search for that device by IP address and see if you can locate it and understand what it is. Pretty cool. Next one, vulnerability management. You guys have probably heard us talk about vulnerability management in the past before. This is definitely something that is a paramount activity for security operations centers to do, to run not only try to identify all the devices on your network, but also be able to run scans on those machines to find out and decide, are there vulnerabilities here? And if so, how can we handle those vulnerabilities? If you have known issues with devices or applications on those devices, you need to be able to handle those. You need to be able to work with those. So, it's one of those things where, depending on the size of the SOC, you may have an entire team that does this. If it's a smaller SOC, even some of the analysts, tier 1 and tier 2 level analysts, are taking part in these activities. And you get a great report and everything from it too. But it really gives you, again, more knowledge and expertise on your own environment to be able to make sure you understand what's happening in your environment. So cool stuff there. Now, the third one is a much broader one. This one's kind of a cop-out, but I think it's a very, very valuable tool. You know, whenever you're doing investigations, you need open source intelligence. You need to be able to know what other vendors out there are saying. So there are what we refer to as open source tools like VirusTotal for checking URLs and file hashes and IP addresses, checking their reputation, seeing if they're good, bad, or indifferent, right? Abuse IPDB, it's another one I use very, very frequently. And it's really, really fast when it comes to its updates. So it's a great tool to check IP addresses and be able to see, is that IP address malicious? What is it known for? How frequently has it been attacking? And a lot of times you actually get a really good feel for the timeline of the compromise of an IP address. So this can be really, really beneficial here. View DNS info. Anytime I'm looking up IPs and URLs, I want to know who owns them. I want to know as much about those as I can. You know, if I've got an IP address that I'm considering blocking, if I block that IP address, am I blocking one main URL or domain, or am I blocking an entire hosting site that has 2,000 URLs behind it? So you have to be able to understand exactly what the actions you carry out, what they will ultimately result in on the back end after you communicate with your other teams to make these protectionary changes. I like these last two because these last two give you a really good indication of what a URL looks like, number one. And two, if there's any sort of maliciousness there along with it too. Now, the last one does a lot more than just that, but it is kind of a feature that you can do in a sandbox. But this is basically a dynamic sandbox. So for instance, if I wanted to pick a website such as our website, I go into CyberNow Labs, what it's going to do is it's actually going to pull up that website in a sandbox and analyze it. And it's going to give me a screenshot. And it's also going to tell me some of the whois information, but it's also going to provide me with an understanding of what's there. So great tool, really nice to be able to look at websites in a safer environment. Yes, obviously VMs and sandboxes that you may have dirty labs in your environment can be very helpful as well. But this is a nice quick tool. And you can see here as well, you can even see the DNSA record with the IP associated with it. You can see a lot of really good details here. And there's a lot of green here. So that's telling us we got a lot of good stuff, which is good. If we see some red, well, that's, you know, kind of telling us we got some bad stuff going on. And then the last one, you can do the same thing here with a URL, but this will go much further. It'll go more in depth and actually dive into all of the activities that that site is doing. You can also submit files here as well too. So if you've got a file that's a question mark, well, you can download that file into a VM and upload it to Hybrid Analysis, which is a sandbox, and it'll sandbox that file and it'll pull out the report and tell you everything about that file. So it really allows you to get a really good picture of that file or that URL. So secondary tools are absolutely paramount. So I definitely don't want them to get forgotten, because at the end of the day, secondary tools, in my opinion, they make the difference in an investigation.
Well, let's do everybody a favor here then, Richard. And let's go ahead and list out URLs for all these different products, and let's put them down at the bottom or at the top, or we never know how people are going to use these videos, folks.
Right.
And so
Somewhere.
folks can check these out. I got to tell you that, you know, I certainly am familiar with like Tenable. You know, a lot of these are pretty well-known tools. So I think everybody's going to have some interest in those. So let's go ahead and make a list of those. So folks, it's fantastic. Now, do you actually train these secondary tools at CyberNow Labs, or is this?
We do, but keep in mind our analysts are using these secondary tools because they're doing real investigations on real security events. So it's not simulated environmental data that's being given to them. They're looking at real attacks and getting those IOCs and being able to check real data, live data, accurate data up to the point so that they can get a full understanding. And they're, again, they're functioning as an analyst. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Well, folks, you definitely need to be checking these out. We got links all around, and while you're looking at those links, you might want to go ahead and check out Cyber Now Labs while you're there. What an amazing program we've got. We'd love to have you come on board. Check out the links, give us a call, and find out more about Cyber Now Labs today. If you like Two Bold Nerds, check out our entire playlist right here. It's a lot of fun. We'll see you there.